ladies and gentlemen.
So we've talked about congruence in the previous video. Basically, if two figures are congruent, then all of their corresponding parts, their sides and their angles, are congruent. Or the other way around also works. If we know that all of the corresponding sides and all of the corresponding angles are congruent, then the two figures are congruent. With triangles, if you're not given all of the information, which would be 3 pairs of sides and 3 pairs of angles, so you need 6 pieces of information. If you're not given all of that, sometimes there are some shortcuts. You should have proven these in your geometry class, but we'll go over them here. First one is the side-side-side congruence theorem. Basically, if you have two triangles and all 3 pairs of corresponding sides are congruent, then the triangles themselves must be congruent. So if we look here at this example, we have a side that's 13, a side that's 13, a side that's 14, a side that's 14, and a side that is 5, and a side that is 5. And we are given that one angle is 65 degrees, and we're given x here. What is x? Well, we need to look at the sides. One, we know that all 3 pairs of sides are congruent, so that these two triangles must be congruent to one another. With that, we see that the x is between the 5 and the 14, and the 65 is between the 5 and the 14, which means that these two parts, the 65 and the x, correspond to each other, and therefore must be congruent. So in this case, x is equal to 65 degrees, and the only reason I know that is because I know that the triangles are congruent, and I know that because all 3 pairs of sides are congruent. The next theorem we have is the side-angle-side congruence theorem. So you have 2 sides, and the angle in between them is congruent. So here we have side lengths of 7, 8, and 4. We have 4 and 7, and 2 angles that are 70. So if we look around the 70, we have an angle that is 70 degrees for both. The sides next to that angle are the important ones to look at. Next to the angle is 7, and we have a 7. And the other side is 4 and a 4. And you can see that the angle is like smushed in between those two sides. Just like in side angle side, the angle is smushed in between the two s's or the sides. So these two triangles are congruent, which means that all of their corresponding parts must be congruent. What corresponds to the x here? Well, that would be the 8. So in this case, x must equal 8. Hopefully not too bad. Reversing that is also true. So instead of 2 corresponding sides and the angle between them, we can also have 2 corresponding angles and the side between them. That's known as ASA, angle-side-angle triangle congruence theorem. So same thing, but 2 angles. So if we look at the angles here, I see I have 100 and 100, and I have a 30 here and a 50 there. That's not quite what I need. But remember that for triangles, there's 180 degrees within a triangle, so if I give you 2 angles, you can always find a third. So in this case here, we have 130. That makes 130 together. 180 to use, so 180 minus 130 would be 50 degrees. And if this one's 50 degrees, this one's going to be 30 degrees because they're going to have the same number of angles within them. And now we can see that the 8s here are in between the 30 and the 100, which means that the two triangles are congruent. So yes, they are congruent by angle, side, angle, because we have 2 angles and the side between them congruent. The last one is a special case, and it only works for right triangles. So the first 3 work for any triangle. The last case is specifically right triangles, and that is hypotenuse leg. If you are given the hypotenuse and the legs of right triangles, and those are the same, then your triangles are congruent. And how you can kind of think of that is you can use Pythagorean theorem to always find the third side, and Pythagorean theorem should give you the same answer for both. So if you have congruent hypotenuses, the ones across from the 90, and one congruent leg, then the other leg has to be congruent. So here we have a hypotenuse and a leg, And here we just have two legs, so we need to find the hypotenuse of this one. And we can do that through Pythagorean theorem. 3 squared plus 4 squared is equal to, we'll call this x, so x squared. We have 9 plus 16 is equal to x squared. 25 is equal to x squared, which means that x is equal to 5 because the square root of 25 is 5. We have a leg, and we have a hypotenuse pair. Both pairs are congruent. So are the triangles congruent? Yes. And we say because hypotenuse leg, or HL. So to recap, our three major ones that work all the time are side, 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 and angle, side, angle. And if we have right triangles, we can also use hypotenuse leg. So that is it for us. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in the next video.